back to Kaku's Kitchen. I'm Kaku and this is my kitchen. So today I've got like an extra wide smile on my face for two reasons. The first is because this video is in response to a request from one of my viewers, and I got a request on Instagram to make egusi soup. And that brings me to my second reason for being extra smiley today, and that's because I'm bringing to you another one of my native Nigerian dishes. And I really like showcasing Nigerian dishes on this platform, and today's dish, as you can tell, like I've already mentioned, is egusi soup. And if you don't know what egusi is, I'm going to have a link in the description box below to an article on what egusi actually is. And it's a very easy soup to make. I think it's one of the very basic soups to make, and I made it with goat meat, which I absolutely love and most Nigerians eat a lot. And I also made it with kale, which is just a leafy green vegetable that's really available to me. But depending on your location, you might want to make it with something else like ugu or efo. But if you don't know what kale is, I'm also going to have a link to it in the description box below. But anyway, I think I'm talking too much. Let's dive into how I make egusi soup in my kitchen. You'll need some palm oil, a small red onion, half of it diced and the other still whole, some ground egusi, some peppers, some meat stock, some meat, and in this case I'm using goat meat, a few tablespoons of ground crayfish, some bouillon cubes, some salt, and some leafy greens. I'm using kale in this instance. So the first thing I do is to blend the peppers and the half onion. I add in some water and just blend that all up. And if I had the whole melon seeds as opposed to the ground egusi seeds, I would have put them in the blender as well and blended them in. But this way I just pour this into the ground egusi seeds and just mix them all in. And I want it to be a nice smooth paste, and I go ahead and crush all of the little lumps in the egusi itself. But this wasn't forming a thick enough paste, so I went ahead and added a bit more egusi and then mixed it all in. And once that was done, I covered it up and just let it sit for a while. Then I go ahead and heat up the palm oil over medium heat. And once that has heated up, I go ahead and add in the onions that have been diced and let that fry for a few minutes. And once it's fried, I go ahead and add in the egusi paste. I stir it in and just let it fry for a while, and I just keep checking on it for a while. Just let it fry and then stir it a little bit. And you have to keep a close eye on it because it can get burnt pretty quickly. But I let it fry for about 5 to 7 minutes, and by the time it starts to stick to the bottom of the pot, then that's when I go ahead and add in some form of liquid to it. And first thing I add in is the meat stock. So I add that in and just mix it in and lower the heat a little. Next I add in the crayfish. And then I add in a little bit of salt. I don't add in too much salt because there's already salt and some bouillon cubes in the meat stock that I added in. Then I add in a little bit of water and just stir that in, and then after a while I add in the meat. And I like to add the meat in pretty early so that the taste of the soup itself gets into the meat. And then I cover it up, lower the heat, and just let it simmer for a while. Then I go ahead and add in a little bit of the bouillon cube, which has already been crushed, and then cover it up and just let it keep simmering. And once it's simmered for another like 5 minutes, then I add in the kale leaves that have already been chopped up, and I just stir it in. And at this point the soup is pretty much done. It's a really easy recipe. But then I stir in the kale, and once I add in the vegetables, I make sure to not cover the pot anymore and lower the heat and just let it cook on really low heat for another couple of minutes, and that's it. For my egusi soups, I typically like for them to be a bit watery, not quite as thick as you would see in some other cases, just because that's my personal preference. But if you prefer for your soup to be really thick, then you don't have to use as much water or as much liquids as I used. So there you have it. It's a pretty easy and straightforward soup to prepare, and it's usually served with Nigerian swallows like eba that's pictured in the video, or pounded yam, semo, fufu, whatever your personal preference is. And some people actually serve it over rice, just for something different. So that's it for this video. Go ahead and give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and if you haven't subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? Anyway, I'll see you in my next video. Take care.